Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original presented by Perplexity. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. Speaking of haters, we will talk about a world that seems to swim with haters from all directions and all persuasions just a little bit later. The WNBA and the people who watch it, even the ones who don't really watch it, is driving me crazy. But first, we have the Final Four for the NBA set. I know it's not called the Final Four. Don't have to make it a capital final, capital four. You know what I'm saying? That's trademarked by somebody else. But we have got to the conference finals in both conferences. And I'm going to throw this out here. And I hope it doesn't seem like I am constructing a straw man. I don't feel like I am constructing a straw man, and I do feel like historically this has been something that people have a tendency to do, and it's certainly possible that this could happen once we get around to the NBA Finals. But to me, this is very important. We all need to remember this, okay? None of us, except for like maybe a couple of y'all listen to this show, but I don't feel like this kind of rich person listen to my show. But none of y'all are actual, factual, real life stakeholders in the NBA or its teams. Okay? None of you are. Therefore, let us not think about the business of the NBA when we talk about these conference finals. Let us try our best not to talk about things, for example, like ratings. All right? I did think that earlier in the year, the ratings discussion was worth having. I do think still that there are discussions to be had about the style of play in the NBA, what it has evolved into, and whether or not that is for the best, right? However, right now, what we got is what should be the most fun. And what we have also that is very interesting is the future of the NBA has arrived. And the future of the NBA is one where this is no longer a dynasty saga. For the majority of my life, the NBA, and when you get this deep into the playoffs, is about a dynasty saga. We watch teams start at certain places and climb, and then they hit their head on a certain level, and then they come back the next year and they hit their head again. But you see it as it goes, and there's a gradual climb to becoming a champion that we see. It is possible that the Boston Celtics, for us, will go down as maybe the last team that we think of to really ascend according to your typical dynasty saga plan, right? And if you think about it, I know it may feel like the year before Denver was that sort of team, but I disagree. This Denver team that just got eliminated is worth noting. They had a 6-season window. It was just interrupted in between by the fact that they lost 2 full postseasons because of the injuries to Jamal Murray and to Michael Porter Jr. But they made it to the Western Conference Finals in 2020. And remember, that was that year where Michael Porter complained about how he wasn't getting enough shots and then played like dog shit in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals and then hit that crazy shot at the end, right? That basically iced that game. That was a young Michael Porter Jr. That was Michael Porter Jr. in year 2. It's 2025. He's still there. He's still somebody. Jamal Murray, still there. Still somebody. Nikola Jokic, still that guy, right? That's a 6-year run. They did the climb. It just so happened that a lot of time when they were climbing, they was kind of doing simulator climbing because they didn't have those 2 guys. When you go back to the Warriors in 2022, they obviously have been to the mountain, come down, had injuries or whatever, but there's a long story that runs with that team. The Bucks in 2021, we saw them go up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2019 until Kawhi and them boys tossed them out the paint. 2020, a little different. The Lakers got a jolt of Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but even that is in line with kind of the narrative that we're talking about. The difference in the story right now is it can feel like these teams popped out of nowhere. This is even with Minnesota and Indiana, both of whom were in the conference finals last year, right? Maybe it is still a dynasty saga, and we just have to adjust our brains to understand who the dynasties may be. But what we have now is no team is in this Final Four that has won a championship since 1978 or 9. I can never remember whether the Sonics won it in 78 or 79. You know what, Ryan? Sounds like a great question for perplexity. But anyway, nobody recent has won this that's of these teams in the Final Four. It will be, in one measure or another, a turnover. This is a league where the champions kind of stay between a small number of squads. That's what it has been for as long as we can remember, where you have teams go to the NBA Finals, 2, 3 teams at 3 years in a row. The Boston Celtics of last year, I didn't even mention them in the Dynasty Saga talk. We watched them make that climb basically from 2017 until then? Like, it was a long run story. Now we're winding up with teams that kind of sort of make everybody feel like they have a chance. Now, of course, Oklahoma City has been on a climb, but much of that climb came when there was no reason to pay attention, right? It was the tank years, but I have always viewed the Oklahoma City tank a little bit differently than I have viewed most of these. I mean, I feel somewhat similar to what Houston was doing in these previous years. What made the tank so offensive with the Sixers was they weren't even trying to find players. They claimed they were trying to find players, but go look at when the process stuff actually ended and how many of those guys survived and made it to the other side. Some of them made the NBA and had like decent careers. Christian Wood, for example, was one of those guys, but he ain't happy with the Sixers. You know what I mean? Oklahoma City was making all those moves and getting all those picks, a haul that the Prospect Sixers never did anything that was close to what Presti was doing. But it was obvious they were trying to figure out who the guys were, and a lot of those dudes that were on that path are on that team now.
There's a difference between building a culture of winning and a culture of losing.
That is exactly it, right? Like, that is my biggest issue with the idea that you're going to send guys out there to lose, is that what you're creating is losers.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that was at any point what Oklahoma City was doing.
They committed to their coach. They committed to their plan. They went out and got someone who they thought could be a great piece in SGA.
Yes.
They never thought he was going to be the MVP, but they thought he was a piece of what they were building.
Right.
And they always had, it wasn't losing for the sake of losing.
Right.
And they won the title in 79, by the way.
79, got it. But they clearly sold Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the idea, like, it's going to be rough for a little while, but we're going to get over, right? We're going to get to the other side of it. And, Ryan, it's interesting. You may remember when they traded James Harden, we thought he would be good, but we didn't think he would be an MVP type of player.
Correct.
And then Presti got one of those back.
Yeah.
Right? Then, there's another thing I give him credit for. When he had the top 5 pick, and that was with Chet, he nailed it. He had the best run ever. That run that built that first run of Thunder, where you had in successive years in picks, Kevin Durant, Jeff Green, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Serge Ibaka.
Yeah.
In a row. Those are your first round picks. He's the best. Like, I don't care if they haven't won a championship, any of that stuff. To me, he's the best. And that team made that climb, but A, they feel new, and B, they feel incomplete. And I think that that's maybe one of the more interesting things about all the teams that we have now that are left trying to win a championship is how exactly you evolve your thinking of what a champion looks like based on who the teams are that we see before us. Because all of them feel incomplete. It feels in some ways like we're going back to the 90s. And what I mean by that is something that is underrated about the 90s, and I guess it really started with the Pistons in 89, is it feels like we're moving back to a one superstar era of champion teams. When you think about the 90s, okay, the Pistons were a one superstar team. It was Isaiah Thomas. Like, you get to Joe Dumars and Dennis Rodman and those guys, but those aren't superstar caliber players, right? Like, I don't think that Joe Dumars was James Worthy, for example. Okay? I don't think he was Kevin McHale. I don't think he was Robert Parrish. I don't think he was those guys. The Bulls, no matter what anybody tries to tell you, were a one superstar team. Okay? Scottie Pippen is not a superstar. And I will say this until the cows come home. And the biggest example that I would give you is that Mike had the goddamn Ebola virus, and he still couldn't ask Scotty to hold it down for him. Hey, man, I ain't really got it today, bro. You think you could do something for me? Actually, Mike, I think you need to scope 37. I heard once that somebody has said, and I won't say who it is, Michael Jordan's so good he got into the Hall of Fame. It's two people. Anyway, one superstar team. The 1994 Rockets won the championship with their second best player as Otis Thorpe, and they played in Game 7 of the finals against the New York Knicks, whose second best player, when you really look back on it, was Anthony Mason. Even the version of Clyde Drexler that they got when they won it in 95, it was not a two-superstar team, though Clyde's up there for the discussion we're having. You have the next run of Bulls championships, one superstar team. The Spurs kind of bring it back, right? 99 Spurs have a still very good David Robinson and Tim Duncan. 3 runs of Shaq and Kobe. Bring it back to the Spurs. You get the outlier with the 04 Pistons. Then you get to the Spurs who have 3 Hall of Famers down the line, right? But now all the teams feel incomplete. And part of why they feel incomplete is that all these teams seem to beat teams that themselves were decimated by injury. But there is an air of todo es posible with the playoffs that has not been there before. And I got to admit, starting to lean into it a little bit, right? All of these teams are built like those that I would tell you in previous times and eras that team can't win a championship. Obviously, it's not the case because one of them has to win a championship. Do the Indiana Pacers look to me like a team that would have gone to back-to-back conference finals? No. Have the Indiana Pacers played like a team that should have gone to back-to-back conference championships? Yeah, man. I'm not sure even a fully constituted Cavaliers squad would have had something for the Pacers for the way that they did it in this series. I mean, in that series. They looked really, really, really good. The Thunder only have one legitimate offensive threat. That's it. That is why I actually think that they are somewhat vulnerable to playing against Minnesota, where, look, the Thunder won all those games, and obviously they play incredible swarming defense, especially when they're allowed to play Coach K basketball, and they play with their hands as much as their feet. Y'all saw that. It's there. But they only got one guy, and he's a foul merchant. Minnesota has 2, okay? And I have to say this, the power of Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, beating the allegations of loserdom.
Talk about someone who turns losers into winners.
Right, that appears to be the case.
Karl Anthony Towns, fixed, and now looks like Julius, and he's almost making Rudy Gobert likable.
This is happening. Also, you know what it appears to be very helpful, Ryan? Now that you mention that? Ant-Man seems to be the kind of guy who likes everybody.
Yes.
Right? He does not seem to have that many people he doesn't like.
And there's not a lot of people in the NBA who like everyone. And Anthony Edwards seems like he likes everybody.
And nobody seemed to like Rudy Gobert, right? That seemed to be
except
across
for Anthony
the board.
Edwards.
Right. And he seems to have been like, hey, Rudy's our guy. I'm going to be the one to prop Rudy up. Good on him. He did the same thing with Karl Anthony Towns, right? You made your executive point. He is the magic man. You touched the hem of his garment, apparently, right? He's that guy. But Julius Randle, I have not seen Julius Randle do Julius Randle things in the negative, which is this ain't going right for you, so you go out here and you start pouting. I've seen Anthony Edwards become a playmaker in a way that I don't think that he had been a playmaker before. It is interesting to see, but they got 2 guys that can go get you a bucket. And I don't think Julius Randle is not a James Worthy type either, but Julius Randle looks like a guy that can go out there and get you a bucket. Indiana, while I do think they feel somewhat incomplete, 2 guys that can get you a bucket, a rim protector who can also make threes. Oh, then it gets interesting. The problem after that is your man's, what's his name? Old boy from where you call it. This is not because these guys are not good players. This is because you pop up in the playoffs, you go check out Indiana, and you're like, damn, I ain't seen you guys since last year's playoffs. I'm not the only person that feels that way. I know a lot of you feel that way. It's okay. But they be out there making buckets. And then, Ryan, we have our hometown or adopted hometown, New York Knicks. Scrappy. They beat the dog shit out of the Celtics in that game, boy. Like, I think the Celtics just ran out of gas, to be clear. But that's still, I can't imagine how much fun it was to be in that building.
Yeah, with Tibbs leaving the starters in with 4 minutes to go.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
So that Friday night, I flew out to give a commencement speech at Prairie View A&M University. I want to thank those folks for having me out there. They brought me back home, more or less, and it was a very emotional and wonderful experience for me. But it also involved me doing a lot of catching 6 o'clock flights. I went to dinner. I then came back. My mama flew in. I met her. I talked to her in the lobby. I got to my room. It was coming up to halftime, and it was a 24-point game. I decided it was time to get some Z's to get ready for waking up at 4 o'clock the next morning. He kept the starters. Hey, look, the man only knows how to do it one way, Ryan. He only knows one way.
This is a big Final Four for scrappy coaches with Daigneault, Tibbs, Rick Carlisle, and Chris Finch, who seems to have gotten really a lot out of Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
Every year.
Well, let me ask you this about Thibodeau, and this is something worth noting. All these teams played up against teams that had significant injuries in the previous round that affected, what they were doing. All right. That didn't happen to the Knicks.
Yep.
Right. And for everything that we say about the way he runs those guys into the ground, everybody else is over there getting them hamstring injuries. You know what I mean? An Achilles tear.
It's almost like Jalen Brunson got his out of the way in March. Yeah.
Right. Everybody else, the Knicks are not the team that seems to be dealing with that. And look, the Knicks got a lot of dudes, man. Like, when you really think about it, they're starting 5. Jalen Brunson is proven to be that guy. All right. Mikal Bridges, if you got him as a 2 or 3, it ain't such a bad thing. I don't understand Karl Anthony Towns. I don't get it, but he could give you 35 on a given night. He can give you 35. He could give you 35 fouls if they didn't have limits, but he could also give you 35. Those are not a bad top 3 to have. Josh Hart or OG is your 5th best player, right? You got Mitchell Robinson as a deep. That roster is actually pretty good, even if it still feels like it's a bit incomplete, right? But this is going to be fun. It's not going to be what it used to be, though. Right? Like, what it is when we think about what a champion is, that's not going to be what it was, right? Who the teams are that make it to this point, they are not who those teams used to be, right? This is not the time for thinking about what it was. This is about a time of looking in and recognizing and accepting what things are going to be. Now, there are ways in which the game certainly can be better. I 100% believe that. I don't agree with everything they've done with the CBA. But what this is going to be right now, I think is going to be fun. I think another thing that's worth noting is somewhere along the way, the NBA realized people want offense. They don't necessarily want points. And so gaming this up in the way they have for these huge regular season numbers where teams have the best offenses of all time, yada, yada, and everything else, the physicality is back in the playoffs. I don't know how exactly you reconcile doing this regular season versus postseason, but this is what playoff basketball is supposed to be. Because the truth is, basketball with more physicality and, dare I say, violence is emotional. It makes you feel something. It lets you know as the viewer what the stakes are. It is not as easy to tell what the stakes are of a basketball game when everybody's standing around shooting 3-pointers. It doesn't feel like anything, right? It may be something to think about. Like, I think the brainiacs like it, but it don't feel like something. And I think like that Oklahoma City Denver series, Ryan, that one felt like something. Like, watching those teams go at it like that feels like something.
When there's a lot of talk about like NBA players don't play defense, which is obviously nonsense, but defense feels like something when people are hitting each other.
Yes.
They're running into each other, and it's like that seems simple, but it's honestly the truth.
Yeah, no. These points ain't supposed to be so easy to get, right? They're supposed to be precious. They're supposed to be scarce. They're not supposed to be scarce like it was in the 90s or the late 90s, right?
People don't want 75, 68, but they do want 196.
Yeah, I'll take a good 90, 93, 88.
Yeah.
A good, strong one of those games would take there where you got to work for those buckets, right? Indiana, part of what's fun to watch about them is they do work for those buckets, even if the working is ball movement. But you see when they get it, They work for it. But I think this is going to feel like something, right? We got enough things. We got enough stories. We got 90s nostalgia with the Knicks and the Pacers. Kids, you're going to see all kinds of clips of things that you're going to think weren't that dope, but I promise you, were amazing to experience at the time. Reggie scored 25 in the fourth quarter in 94 and hitting them with that one. The 8 points in 9 seconds in 95. Poor Patrick Ewing and the finger roll that didn't go in at the end of the 95 conference semifinals.
The 4-point shot with Larry Johnson.
Oh, I forgot about that in 99. My brother was at that game. I will never forget this. His job had a box, and he would get the box. And so I remember he's in the box, and he calls the house because it's landline from the box. And I've never heard anything as loud in my life
I can only imagine,
as it was after Larry Johnson had the 4-point play. Like, we've got that. We've got Anthony Edwards, the biggest star right now. And I don't mean star in terms of magnitude. I mean star in terms of personality. We got that dude. We've got him there. Oklahoma City is going to be here for a long time. Brian, you've seen this. They have something like 13 first-round picks in the next however many years, and some of those picks are going to be excellent. Like, they're going to be able to turn this into a superstar.
And Caruso is their only rotation player over 26.
It's insane,
yeah.
Right? And so we've got that going on over there. We've talked about the Knicks up and down. We talked about the Pacers. Like, this is where the NBA is going. It may be 2 or 3 more teams in the conference finals next year that did not seem like teams that we thought could be there. But I am starting to embrace this idea that no matter where a team is seeded going into this postseason, they've got a chance to go. I am going to have to accept that the dynasty saga era is probably gone, right? With the aprons and the cap and everything else, that's probably not there. But what we do have, I do believe, is 4 really interesting teams, 3 of whom happen to be in not so large markets, okay? The negative actors or the bad actors are absolutely going to try to throw TV numbers out there. And unless you get paid by how much people watch this on television, I think the only TV number that matters is whether or not you do or do not feel like watching. I am going to be watching. I think it's going to be one hell of a good time. I accept that this is the future of the NBA. I ask you to join me and the crew because I think this is going to be good. All right, so Ryan, I think it was Saturday. Was Saturday the WNBA game?
Yep.
Okay, and I don't want to say the WNBA game because that implies that there was only one WNBA game.
The WNBA season started, but it started with a marquee matchup between 2 of the league's most famous players.
Okay, so that was the first game of the year?
I think it started on Friday, but I think it was yes, it was the Fever's first game of the year.
Okay. It was the Fever and the Sky. Caitlin Clark plays for the Fever. Angel Reese plays for the Sky. There was a bit of a tussle. It did not get so far as to be a kerfuffle. It definitely was a tussle. Maybe you have seen it. And the events are as follows. Angel Reese setting up to get an offensive rebound. She pushed a woman in the back with 2 hands and then got the offensive rebound. Once she got it, she brought the ball down too low. Caitlin Clark hacked her across the arm and then gave her a bit of a push after the fact. Caitlin Clark did that thing where you walk away from somebody but keep on looking at them, which is not gangster. Angel Reese, however, a little bit more gangster than that, tried to come at her. It was a thing. Leah Boston broke up the little tussle. And Ryan, it's like World War III happened.
We're back the exact same place we were all of last July.
It is Larry Holmes and Jerry Cooney 4-5 times a year when those 2 teams play against each other. And
you brought this up before the show, but they play each other so often.
Yes.
You know, like this might be almost like the 10th or 12th time they've played in a nationally televised game already in the second year of their careers.
So if you count college, right? Like I think they played 4 times last year. They played the 2 games in college. And actually, that's on national television. Keeping in mind, don't forget, Angel Reese played at Maryland before she transferred to LSU. Maryland, which you can easily forget, is in the Big Ten. So they were playing against each other there also, with Caitlin Clark being at Iowa. You and I also talked about this before the show. There is a Magic Bird element, obviously, to these two players. The problem is Angel Reese ain't no Magic Johnson.
Good player, not Magic Johnson.
Not Magic. We're not. These are not players of the same stature. They're not it. Like,
and that's not an insult to Angel Reese.
No. Caitlin Clark's different, right? Like, I think that's something that a lot of people just need to come to terms and understand here is much of the why Caitlin Clark and not other people is that the other people are not Caitlin Clark. Like, strictly talking about this is basketball. She's it, right? But for a lot of people, some in media, some not, this takes on the Bird Magic characteristic. And I actually just thought about this. Ryan, can you imagine if Magic and Bird played in the same conference?
Yeah, I didn't even. Yeah, I guess they only met up once in the championship, right? In their college careers.
In the college career, they met once, and then they met 3 times in the finals in the NBA. But imagine, rather than Magic being on the Lakers and Bird being on the Celtics, what if Bird was on the Celtics and Magic was on the Sixers?
Yeah, they play each other again.
My God,
4 times a year.
We, as a society, we would have combusted. We would not have been able to handle that, and I know that. Because we can't even handle Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And this is in an era where we're supposed to be better than we were back then.
40 years ago.
Oh, my God. I can't. I need some help here. I need somebody to tell me how we going to do this, or at least how I'm going to do this, or perhaps how you do it. And maybe I'm asking you the question in the wrong medium to get a true answer, but I need somebody to give me some game on this. I'm begging you. How can I follow the WNBA without being online? There's got to be a way, because being online for the WNBA, it makes me want to drown myself. I hate all of you, every single one of you, whatever side you happen to be on. I can't stand you. I can't. And the biggest reason I can't stand online WNBA discourse, it's hardly ever about basketball. Even when it doesn't involve these two, it just does not feel, when I consume the things that I see. And maybe I'm hanging out in the wrong places, and maybe I'm hanging out in the wrong circles. That's why I'm coming here asking y'all for a little bit of help. It hardly ever seems to be about basketball. And then when it's not about basketball, it don't even really feel to me like people can allow themselves to be honest about it's not really basketball kind of stuff, or it is just kind of basketball, or whatever it is. And I just find my head spinning, right? Like, this thing that happened with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese this last time, it was a basketball tussle between two people that I don't think like each other. Okay, I don't think that's so big. You want me to tell you 2 people in the NBA who don't like each other and haven't liked each other for a long time? Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. They do not like each other. Everybody knows that they do not like each other. That is going to be a story and a theme for a long time, because they're going to play each other a lot. I think most of us presume that the Spurs are going to become very good and be a competitive team with the Thunder, and they can't stand each other. That is going to make things better. I enjoy seeing people who don't like each other play basketball, and they play the same position. Okay. I have no idea how you could watch what has transpired in the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark Chronicles since that championship game, which I guess was in 2023. I don't understand how you could have watched this and think for a second that Angel Reese does anything other than dislike Caitlin Clark. I just don't know what you're watching. You don't need to get into extreme terms like hate, I suppose, right? You don't need to take it to some deeper molecular level, but it is obvious, right? She don't like her get down. And it seems obvious to me that Caitlin Clark does not like hers. And even if you don't have the greatest evidence that she full on does not like her get down, you wouldn't like her get down if you were in the same position. Okay? That push that Caitlin Clark gave her and that look she gave her, come on, man, it's beef. I love beef. Y'all won't even let me enjoy the beef because it turns into them big ass words somebody taught you in college. I don't want to use your college words. I don't want that. I don't need that. If I got to talk about this with any word that got more than 3 syllables, stop. I want you to stop. I hate it. But that's a function of the onlineness of it all more than it is anything else, right? So how can I find a way to get to where this game is going? Because look, summer's coming, baby. I ain't really going to be watching no baseball like that. I think I could get into this. I've been really trying to find my way to do it. But my typical entryway into stuff now at this point in my life is through the internet. That's how we do things. The internet is a generally terrible place, but with this league, it's an insufferable place. A horribly insufferable place that's only going to get more insufferable because Caitlin Clark is only going to get way better. And if she gets way better, then the people who like her get more insufferable, and the people who don't, whoo, man, that's tough because I have more interaction with the people who really don't like her. And I don't be wanting to talk to them about this stuff anymore. Don't like it. I don't enjoy it. There's got to be a better way.
It's one of those things where like sports in life have serious problems and unserious problems.
Yes.
And nothing is worse than when people make an unserious problem very serious.
And I believe that is a fair characterization of what is going on. Again, in both
Angel
directions.
Reese and Caitlin Clark not liking each other is an unserious problem.
It is. But on both sides,
correct,
it's become parasocial, right? Is that the word? Where you feel like these people are your friends?
Yes, that is the word.
Right? On both sides, it's become parasocial. But I fully understand why those who are more inclined to have an affection for Angel Reese are very leery and skeptical of those who have jumped on the Caitlin Clark wagon, especially if you have always been a fan of this league and now all of a sudden you look up and you see all these new people. And a big part of why these new people are here is not simply that Caitlin Clark is good. It's also that Caitlin Clark is good and Caitlin Clark is white. The problem is I don't have a counterfactual example of a black player that could have been as much of a phenomenon as Clark is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you take Caitlin Clark and you make her black, how much of it is different. I could hypothesize, but I don't really have a piece of evidence in historical precedent that I feel like lets me know, well, this happened and then this. I don't quite have that. What we have is how it feels and how uncomfortable it can feel at times when the wagon gets behind Caitlin Clark so strongly and then against Angel Reese just as fervently, right? And then stuff like when you see Portnoy is showing up for games and Portnoy himself, for reasons that he has earned, becomes an avatar in the eyes of those more inclined on the Reese wagon to look at him and be like, oh, that's what's going on there. You've got whatever is happening in the crowds in Indiana, which is a place where crowds have had a historical track record of alleged racism. If you watch, I believe the name of the doc was Winning Time, the Dan Flores 30 for 30 on the Knicks Pacers rivalry and showing the crowd at Market Square Arena with people having signs talking about lynching the Knicks. Yeah. Like, a lot of things are coming together here to make this worse than it is, or worse than it has to be. Chicago even then becomes an interesting place because Chicago is the city of the sky. And I remember when it was that ridiculous op-ed that was written about the fouls against Caitlin Clark last year. What you had to remember is, the Chicago papers, the Sky is the hometown team. But another hometown team for Chicago is the Big Ten. Basically all the Big Ten graduates, especially in that pocket of the Big Ten, right? It gets a little different when you start talking about like Maryland and Penn State and stuff like that. But Caitlin Clark's a hometown player for Chicago in a lot of ways too. It all just turned into so much. And I didn't think we were going to be doing this again this year. I thought that some of the pushback against Clark from some sides would mellow a little bit as like they're showing more personality from her. Like we're getting more stuff online with her interacting with her teammates. I've always said a big thing that was going to happen with her that nobody was really going to talk about was that clearly she never really hung out with any black people before. And now this has changed because she's now in the WNBA, not playing for the University of Iowa. Like there's a lot of stuff that's going on and it doesn't feel like anybody's having a good time. Like the league got bigger, which is what so many fans of the league wanted. And I told them, I don't think you want us to show up. Well, we're here and you're not having fun. The new people have come. They're not really having fun either. This has got to get fun. I'm just asking you, how do I get into this league or do this in a place where it is fun? Please help me. Anybody that's got a guide for doing it, let me know what it is. Because I can't do it if it's going to feel like this. This show is brought to you by Perplexity. Perplexity is an AI-powered answer engine that searches the internet in real time to give you fast, high-quality answers with sources. Unlike legacy search engines that respond with a list of links, Perplexity skips straight to the answers you need, explained in easy-to-understand everyday language with sources and citations.
That's right, Bo. You know, often we use Perplexity to look things up, find information. For example, earlier last week, we used it to find out what else have Jokic's brothers done. Perplexity quickly gave us information about the eclectic lives of both Jokic brothers.
Discover fast and reliable search with Perplexity today. Download the app or ask Perplexity anything at perplexity.ai. It's playoff time, and if you're still just watching games, you're missing out. With Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you'll be looking at a 500-time bag in your pocket. And right now, new customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code BOMANI. That's code BOMANI to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bo, our first story is about the Diddy trial.
Hi there. I'm Laura Italiano, and I'm a reporter at Business Insider. I've been covering the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial in federal court in Manhattan. And that means watching the 4 days it took to pick his jury. These are New Yorkers who will sit through his 2-month trial and decide if he is guilty of charges that could send him to federal prison for the rest of his life. So who are they? They are 4 women and 8 men. They come from Manhattan, the Bronx, and Westchester County, just north of the city. Combs is entitled by law to a jury of his peers, and this panel is a racially diverse group. At least 5 out of the 12 are African American. They are also professionally very diverse. There's a scientist, a deli clerk. Juror number 1 is in his 60s, and he's a massage therapist. There are 6 alternates as well. They'll step in case one of the regular jurors needs to bow out for some reason. Now, despite how different they are, they have some very important things in common. Under penalty of perjury, they have all sworn that they can be fair and unbiased and judge Combs based only on the evidence at trial. And they also all have a busy spring and summer ahead of them. But as the very hardworking scientist who's juror number 3 told the judge, "This could be a good break for me. I haven't taken a vacation," he told the judge, "in a very long time."
1, amazed at finding 12 people who don't really know who Diddle is.
Who Diddy is or what Diddy allegedly did.
Yeah. Like that is, you know what? I might want to be those people.
Talking about the part of the people who are not on the internet and are happier because of it.
Yeah. Like how did you pull that off? Right? Like, how do you not know? Like, Ryan, I'm betting you don't know who Kevin Samuels is.
Doesn't ring a bell.
All good for you. I don't really know who he is, but he was a thing for black people on Twitter. Kind of one of those like telling men how to be real men kind of dudes or whatever it is. He died. I got no idea what he looks like. I never heard anything that he said. And somebody told me like, wow, that's really good that you don't. And I'm like, hey man, I feel like I don't know what I did wrong, but I need to keep that up. Like, I don't need to know necessarily these things. However, not knowing at all who Diddle is, like having no clue, you missed out on some jams. Like I just don't know how you pulled this off. Did you just get here?
Yeah, that commitment to being offline is, again, very impressive.
Yeah. I will say this, though. I said I don't see no way that he's not going to go to jail. There is a way that he could not go to jail. But again, if he doesn't go to jail, he's still going to be in jail. Ain't nobody coming to kick it at your house, dog.
No one. No, I think people are going to say no to those invites.
Not happening.
All right. Our next one's from Fashion.
Hi, I'm Christina Cauterucci, a senior writer at Slate and host of the Slate podcast Outward. I recently wrote a piece about fur, which is making a big comeback in fashion this year. At all the major fashion weeks in February and March, where designers show off their upcoming fall and winter collections, there was so much fake fur and shearling and even some real fur that in the following weeks, search traffic for fur more than doubled at some online retailers. We haven't seen this much interest in fur in years, and for good reason. Animal rights activists spent decades staging dramatic protests at fashion shows and department stores, splattering fur coats and red paint and stuff. Most luxury fashion brands and stores stopped selling fur by the late 2010s. And since it can be hard to tell real fur from good faux fur, the fake stuff lost social currency too. It just wasn't fashionable anymore. That's all changing. In the Trump 2.0 era, after living through a pandemic, in the midst of climate change and the rise of AI and a global turn toward authoritarianism, people are grasping for things that make them feel good. They want quick hits of dopamine and a connection to a simpler time. In this case, the era before fast fashion, when clothing items like a fur coat could be an heirloom you'd pass on to your kids. And the ethical argument against fur just isn't hitting the same anymore. Activists say even wearing vintage fur or fake fur isn't okay because it could encourage people to buy more new, real fur. But across the political spectrum, there's less certainty these days that our choices can actually affect the greater good. And in tumultuous, alienating times, it just feels nice to be swaddled in something fuzzy.
So basically what we're saying is we have given up.
We have given up, and there's other stuff to be mad about.
Right. But we don't want to be mad about those things either. There's other stuff to be mad about, like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. But like we are giving up on principle. They have worn us out, and we are just giving up on things that we thought might be a matter of. Wow. Let me tell you who hasn't given up though, just so everybody knows. PETA.
PETA never gives up.
PETA never gives up. They are on it. They are about it. They are resilient. You will still get a bucket of blood tossed over you and your coat that you just want something to make you feel good. All right, just letting you know, you better be ready to scrap it out.
Talk about if you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. That applies.
Yes.
That applies to PETA, and it has for the last 40 years.
God, yeah, they ain't playing, dog. Like that's that whole thing. Oh, we don't have the energy to worry about these things anymore. I guarantee you, PETA woke up in the morning, bite it, ride it, ready to go.
All right, this is our last one. We didn't get a summary for this, but this is about air travel in the New York area. I'm just going to read 2 paragraphs. United Airlines Chief Executive Scott Kirby told customers in an email Monday that it is quote, absolutely safe to fly in and out of Newark Liberty International Airport following 2 weeks of technological and air traffic control staffing issues that have plagued the New Jersey transit hub. Quote, the truth is that all flights in and out of EWR are absolutely safe, end quote.
It don't sound like it, Ryan.
Safe is one of those things like smart or classy. The more you have to talk about how much it is that thing, it is probably not that thing.
Yeah, and there's like, because it's an air traffic controller issue there, right?
Correct. It's a stat. Again, they don't have enough air traffic controllers, and the tech is hopelessly outdated.
How does that ever happen? Right? Like, I guess that's the one thing about these capital items that cost a lot on the front end, right? Is that, so I think about that with airplanes. Hey, man, we ain't throwing out no perfectly good airplane just because it's old. Think about it with the subway here. They're like, that thing still run, right? Okay, cool. We're not throwing out some perfectly good. We don't throw out no perfectly good house just because it's a little bit old, but at least you do something with it. I just cannot imagine. Like, our tech is hopelessly outdated. And you know what the issue is? They don't make no additional profits by fixing it. That's what the issue is. I think I told you about this. I was reading this book a couple months ago about hijackings in the 1970s, and that was a really, really big thing. And while the hijackings were really going, where there were like a couple of those a month, basically, they didn't do anything to put in metal detectors at the airport. And the reason was the airlines had concluded that it was more profitable to let people hijack the planes and then pay the ransom to get the plane back than it was for them to put metal detectors in at the airport. They concluded that people were still going to the airports. People also weren't getting hurt during these hijackings, but they concluded that people were still going to the airport. Air travel was increasing by, hundreds of percents. Therefore, just keep letting people hijack planes. So
just the cost of doing business.
Right. That's exactly it. If there's no profit motive in them updating the technology, then they're not going to update the technology. I am not exaggerating. That is truly how they think.
All right, another great voicemail prompt. Someone you knew that had brothers you wanted, quote, no problems with. A lot of good submissions. Here's the first one.
What's up, Bo? This is Jason from Chicago again. Tell you about the two brothers I didn't want no problems with. So I grew up with Buddy Guy's grandson, and if you know, Shauna is Buddy Guy's daughter. So his grandsons were off the chain. One of his grandsons in my class, he was a real cool dude, but he was into like martial arts. So he used to have like nunchucks and like bamboo sticks and all type of stuff. But his older brothers, they were more so like regular conventional type of dudes. And one day, we always knew like you never really want to get on their bad side. One day, these dudes fight one of their classmates' father. And when I say they in 8th grade, that one of them picked up a grown man, powerbombed him on the hood of his car. This was after school, and just walked home. And it was like we always knew you don't want to mess with them dudes. All right, Bo.
Did he say they powerbombed somebody, daddy?
Yeah, that sounds like someone watching too much of the Attitude Era for sure.
I mean, but apparently putting it to good use. Wow. Who's next?
All right, here's our next one.
Hey, Bo. Tim from Houston. A couple of years ago, I was in middle school and went to Garner State Park with some friends. And me and my buddies went and played basketball at one of the courts. We're all 14, 13. We're young, but like we played for the school. And there were 3 guys there who were older and they're pretty drunk. But they wanted to play us in 3-on-3. Went there with my friends, the Cartwright brothers, who had a little bit of a reputation. And they didn't play basketball, so they were just watching us play. Things started to get a little physical because we were better than them, and they didn't really like it. It got a little tense. I thought they were going to start swinging for a second. Thankfully, nothing happened. But afterwards, one of the brothers, Billy, he had a rock probably the size of a cantaloupe, and he said he had it just in case one of them swung on us. He was ready to go. Luckily, nothing happened, but he wasn't joking, Bo. Nice. Thanks. Love the show.
Yeah, he wasn't joking. That is famous words.
Yeah, that's when things really get interesting, when people say the phrase, I'm not joking, or he wasn't joking.
No. And like the person who said they weren't joking by happenstance also wasn't joking.
All right, here's our last one.
What's up, Bomani? It's DG from DC calling about somebody's brother I wanted no problems with. This ain't exactly the kind of story you were looking for, but I still think it kind of fits. I started a job about 20 years ago at a Fortune 500 company. The company's big on socializing and networking. I mean, you're supposed to be networking about work, but after a bunch of free drinks, at some point, nobody who's still at the bar is talking about work. We're just having a good time. A lot of relationships end up popping off in these settings. So I met a young lady in one of these settings, and we wind up going out a few times. I kind of thought she was really out of my league, honestly, because she's literally showing me her modeling portfolio. Obviously, she's got a good job. So I'm looking at her like she's a total package. Anyways, after a few more dates, we're in that gray area between dating and a real relationship, and I'm trying to figure out, what that next step is. It seemed obvious on the surface, but something kept giving me pause. Like, she'd be real cool one day, and the next day she'd be completely combative. Come to find out, she was diagnosed with manic depression or something like that. But more importantly, she wasn't consistently taking her medication. So after a few more, I'll call them episodes, I figured we had to talk. I was nervous, though, because A, I didn't know how she was going to take it, and B, we work at the same company. Mind you, we're not in the same building or anything, but in my mind, all she had to do was go to HR, make up some story about me being appropriate, and my dope job out of college was gone. So I call her up. I try to assess her mental health that day. She seems chill, so I start the whole "we should just be friends" conversation. She didn't get heated or anything, but at the end she calmly said, "By the way, my brother just got out of jail, and he's sleeping on my couch right now." I didn't really know what to do with that, so I just said something like, "That's cool. Maybe I'll see him later," knowing damn well I wasn't going back to that house ever again. So I got off the phone. I told my roommates, if anybody comes asking for me, tell them I ain't around, and I slept with a bat next to my bed for the next month, just in case. Thankfully, nothing ever happened, but I was not trying to have any problems with her brother who just got out of jail. Appreciate it, Bomani. Love the show.
Glad that worked out all right for you, brother. That was not a guarantee.
Remember, you don't, like we said earlier, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about like where this is going with the whole mental health angle. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was like, oh, Ryan, I don't know if you probably nope. Landed the plane.
Yeah.
Everything wound up okay.
A little turbulence, what we got there.
Yeah. Well played. Well done. You have a discerning ear. That took a very sophisticated ear to know that, no, it was okay. Way to go, brother. Way to go. Glad to have you. Whew. But do we have DraftKings picks, Ryan?
We sure do. All right. We're looking ahead to Tuesday. We got the Thunder going against the Timberwolves in game 1. I'm all over the Timberwolves in this one. Thunder coming off a 7-game war. I like Anthony Edwards over 27.5 points. I also like Naz Reid over 10.5 points in that first game 1. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code Bomani. That's code Bomani to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. That's Ryan Brumley. He handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Also, thanks to our If You Haven't Heard contributors. Thanks to Laura Italiano. Check out her story about the jury being seated for the Diddy trial at businessinsider.com. Thanks to Christina Cauterucci at Slate. Check out her story on why fur is back at slate.com. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe. Like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.